My father gave my patent to my stepsister, but I had already secured the real one. His regret came too late. I've transferred your research patent to your stepsister. My father's voice, a familiar baritone, was unnervingly casual over the phone, as if he were discussing a minor business transaction. She deserves it more than you. She knows how to properly commercialize it. I stood in the hushed stillness of my Stanford lab, the cool, sterile air a sharp contrast to the fire raging within me. The phone felt like a rock in my hand, my knuckles turning white from the pressure. 5 years of my life, a singular focus since graduate school, had culminated in this moment, a groundbreaking, targeted drug delivery system that could revolutionize cancer treatment. And my father had just given it away. My name is Alexander Carter, and at 32, I am a biochemical researcher. My father, Robert Carter, is the CEO of Carter Pharmaceuticals, a company my late mother had co-founded with him. The patent he had just tried to hand over was for a technology designed to make cancer treatments more effective with fewer side effects. The recipient? My 25-year-old stepsister, Madison, whose most notable achievement was earning a supposed MBA from an online school. You can't do that, I said, my voice steady despite the seismic shift happening inside me. The patent isn't yours to transfer. He let out a short, dismissive laugh. Of course it is. Carter Pharmaceuticals funded your research. Everything you develop belongs to the company, and as CEO, I decide who handles what. I could almost see his self-satisfied smile. Madison has the business acumen you lack. She understands the market. I glanced at my computer screen, where an email from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, sat, confirming receipt of my application 3 months ago. What my father didn't know was that I'd anticipated this. Ever since he married Madison's mother 2 years prior, he had been systematically sidelining me, quietly restricting my access to labs, reassigning my research team, and gradually reducing my funding, all in favor of his new golden child. I hope Madison enjoys trying to commercialize research she doesn't understand, I replied, the calm tone throwing him off balance. Is there anything else? A beat of stunned silence followed. He had expected protests, tears, maybe even begging. Instead, he got polite indifference. That's all. Legal will send over the transfer papers. Good luck with that, I said, and ended the call. The moment the line went dead, I sent a quick text to my lawyer, Sarah Martinez. He did it. Just like we predicted. Then I sat down, my hands trembling not from fear, but from the raw, exhilarating anticipation of a plan set in motion months ago. I thought back to the night everything changed. The company's annual gala, where I'd just finished presenting my preliminary research to potential investors. The response had been overwhelmingly positive. But instead of congratulating me, my father had steered the conversation toward Madison's recent graduation. Madison will be joining the company as head of strategic development, he'd announced proudly. She'll help modernize our approach. I'd watched my doctorate, my years of research, my mother's legacy, all fade into the background. At first I had tried to mentor her, to share my knowledge of our protocols and the industry. But she wasn't interested in learning. She wanted control. The signs were subtle at first, a restricted lab here, a reassigned team member there, but they added up. Then I started noticing her in meetings about my drug delivery system, taking notes, and asking questions that betrayed a fundamental ignorance of the science. That's when I called Sarah, a college friend who specialized in intellectual property law. Document everything, she had advised. Every email, every restriction, every change. And most importantly, file your own patent application independently of Carter Pharmaceuticals. I had worked nights and weekends, meticulously logging every piece of my research not directly funded by company resources. My breakthrough had come during my personal time, using my own lab equipment, meticulously logged and verified. The text from Sarah arrived. Papers filed with USPTO. Your independent patent application is solid. Their transfer attempt will trigger the investigation we've been waiting for. I pulled a thick folder from my desk drawer labeled Project Shield. It was a detailed file of every document, every email, every piece of evidence showing how my father and Madison had tried to push me out and seize my work. The company records would show that while they funded some early stages, the key breakthroughs were developed by me, on my own time. Another text from Sarah. Re Madison's business acumen. I did some digging. Her online MBA program isn't accredited. I wasn't surprised. Madison had always been more focused on appearances, spending more time posting on LinkedIn about being a female pioneer than actually learning about her supposed field. My office phone rang. Madison's extension. I let it go to voicemail. Alex, we need to discuss the transfer of your research project. Her message began, just as I expected. I have some ideas for monetization that you clearly haven't considered. I gathered my things, knowing the next few hours would be pivotal. The elevator ride to the parking garage gave me a moment to reflect. My mother, the scientific genius, had founded Carter Pharmaceuticals with my father 30 years ago. He was the business mind. After she died of cancer, I devoted myself to continuing her work. But everything changed after he met Diane. Suddenly, the company's scientific foundation was secondary to its market value. Research timelines were rushed, protocols shortened. Madison's arrival was the final straw. As I reached my car, another call came through. My father. I let it ring. He'd have plenty to say soon enough, but first, he needed to learn a few hard truths. I drove straight to Sarah's office. The conference room walls were covered with timelines and documents. Right on schedule, Sarah said as I walked in. Your father just tried to file the patent transfer paperwork. It triggered immediate flags with the USPTO since your independent application is already on file. How long until they realize? I asked. They probably already have. Sarah smiled. The USPTO would have immediately notified them. I imagine your father is having a very difficult conversation with his legal team right now. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text from him. What have you done? I showed it to Sarah, who nodded. Perfect. Let them sweat while we prepare our response. We have meetings set up with the patent office tomorrow morning. Your documentation is impeccable. They won't be able to claim corporate ownership of your independent research. I thought of Madison, probably in her new office, planning how to take credit for work she couldn't begin to understand. I thought of my father, who had been so quick to dismiss my contributions in favor of his new family. What happens next? I asked Sarah, though I already knew. Next, she said, we watch them try to explain how they plan to transfer a patent they don't own. The USPTO takes attempted patent fraud very seriously. My phone continued to buzz with calls from my father, Madison, and the company's legal team. I silenced it and signed the incorporation papers for my new company, Carter Biotech. The following morning, Carter Pharmaceuticals was in chaos. I watched from across the street as lawyers rushed in and out of the building. Sarah and I sat in her car, reviewing our documentation. Your father has called 6 times in the last hour, she noted. Should we hear what he has to say? I shook my head. He had plenty of chances to talk before he tried to steal my research. Let him sweat. My phone buzzed again. Madison. This is just a misunderstanding. Daddy was trying to help you by putting more qualified people in charge of your project. Don't ruin everything because you're jealous. More qualified? Sarah snorted, reading over my shoulder. She thinks drug delivery systems are like Uber for medicine, I replied dryly. Last month she suggested we make an app for it. Our meeting with the USPTO wasn't until 10 a.m., but we'd arrived early to watch the drama unfold. Through the glass walls of the lobby, I could see my father, Madison, Diane, and half the legal team gathering in a conference room. Ready? Sarah asked. I nodded. More than ready. We walked into the building just as Madison rushed for the elevator. She froze when she saw me. Alex! Thank God. You need to call off whatever this is. Daddy's furious. Making you look bad? I countered. You mean like trying to steal a patent you have no right to? She laughed, but it sounded forced. Don't be dramatic. We're family. Everything in this company is family property. Carter Biotech isn't family property, I said calmly. And neither is my research. Her perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together in confusion. Carter what? Before she could finish, my father's voice boomed across the lobby. Alexandra! In my office now! He stood in his doorway, his face flushed with anger. For a moment, I saw the intimidating figure from my childhood, but that spell had been broken. Actually, Sarah stepped forward. Any discussions will need to happen with counsel present. We have a meeting with the USPTO in 20 minutes. Shall we all convene in the main conference room? My father's face darkened as he recognized her. This is a family matter, he growled. No, I corrected him. This is a legal matter. You tried to transfer a patent you don't own. That's fraud. The word hung in the air, echoing through the lobby. Several employees stopped to stare. Madison's face had gone pale. Conference room, my father snapped, turning on his heel. Everyone. Now. The next hour was excruciating for my father and Madison. Sarah methodically presented our evidence, the independent lab logs, the documentation of my restricted access, the emails showing his systematic attempt to push me out. Furthermore, Sarah continued, we have evidence that Miss Madison Carter has been falsely representing her qualifications. Her claimed MBA is from an unaccredited institution, which raises serious questions about the company's due diligence. Madison's face went from pale to red. That's not relevant. My degree is just as valid as Alex's. Is it? I asked quietly. Then perhaps you can explain how my targeted drug delivery system works, since you're so qualified to take it over. The silence was deafening. Madison looked to my father for help, but he was staring at the documents, his face ashen. Dr. Wong from the USPTO cleared her throat. Based on the evidence, it's clear that patent application number 631974421 was properly filed by Dr. Alexander Carter. Any attempt to transfer it without her consent would constitute patent fraud. My father finally looked up, his expression a desperate mix of anger and defeat. Alexandra, you can't do this to the company. To our family. Our family? I repeated, my voice steady and cold. You mean the family that tried to steal my life's work? The family that pushed me aside for someone who doesn't even understand basic biochemistry? I was trying to protect you, he exploded. You're brilliant, but you don't understand business. Madison knows how to make it profitable. Like she monetized her fake MBA? The words came out sharper than I intended. Or like how she planned to monetize research she can't even comprehend? Madison burst into tears. Enough! My father slammed his hand on the table. What do you want, Alexandra? Money? A promotion? Name your price. Sarah and I exchanged glances. This was the moment. Actually, I said, sliding the Carter Biotech Incorporation papers across the table. I don't want anything from Carter Pharmaceuticals. I've started my own company. My research, my patents, my future, they all go with me. He picked up the papers with trembling hands. You can't compete with us. We have the resources, the connections, and you have Madison's expertise in making apps. I countered. I have the actual science. Let's see which matters more to investors. As we left, my phone buzzed with an email from an investor who had been excited about my research at that fateful gala. The subject line, interested in backing Carter Biotech. I smiled, showing it to Sarah. The future was already looking brighter than the past. The next few months were a whirlwind of meetings, paperwork, and late nights. I had secured lab space, and my former team members had joined me. One afternoon, while reviewing grant applications, my phone rang. Dr. Alexandra Carter speaking. Alexandra, it's Charles Montgomery from the FDA Advisory Board. My heart skipped a beat. I heard about your split from Carter Pharmaceuticals. Quite the splash you're making. I hope it's the research making the splash, not the family drama, I said. He chuckled. Both, if we're being honest. But I'm calling about the research. The targeted delivery system, it's impressive. We'd like you to present at next month's Innovation Summit. Before I could respond, Sarah burst into my office. Alex! Turn on the financial news now! My father's face filled the screen. Proud to announce our groundbreaking new drug delivery system, he was saying. Developed by our brilliant head of strategic development, Madison Carter. My coffee mug crashed to the floor. Is that what I think it is? Montgomery asked sharply from the phone's speaker. They're trying to steal my research, I said, watching in horror as Madison, wearing a lab coat like a costume, stepped to the podium. We expect FDA approval within months, she was saying, reading from note cards. Our proprietary system uses targeted molecular recognition, those are my words, I whispered. That's from my patent application. Sarah was already on her phone. Get me Judge Harrison. This is an emergency injunction situation. Alexandra, Montgomery said. I'm going to hang up now because I suspect I'll be involved in the official response to this. But off the record, nail them to the wall. The next few hours were a blur. Sarah's team filed for an emergency injunction. Around midnight, my father finally called. Bold move, I answered. This could have been avoided, he said, sounding tired. You could have stayed. Been part of the family business. Instead, you forced our hand? Forced your hand into committing patent fraud on national television? It's business, he snapped. Madison's announcement has already boosted our stock price. By the time any legal challenges play out, we'll have established market position. You really think you can get away with this? I think you should consider coming back, he said, his voice softening. There's still time to fix this. To be a family again. I thought of my mother, and what she would have thought of this. We stopped being a family the moment you tried to steal my work, I said and hung up. The next morning, Sarah arrived early. Judge Harrison granted the emergency injunction. Carter Pharmaceuticals has to cease all public claims about the delivery system pending a full hearing. That won't undo the damage, I said. They're creating market confusion, making people question the legitimacy of my research. Then we fight back. Not just legally. We need to tell our story. She pulled out her tablet. The Wall Street Journal wants to interview you. So does Nature Biotechnology. I hesitated. I had always preferred to let my work speak for itself. Alex, Sarah said gently, your father is counting on you to stay quiet. That's how they'll get away with this. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. She was right. I told the reporter everything, about my mother's legacy, about being pushed aside for Madison, about the attempted patent theft. The story broke the next morning. Biotech battle, daughter claims father's company tried to steal cancer research. The scientific community erupted. Former colleagues reached out to support me. Madison tried to do damage control, but crumbled under basic technical questions. The damage was done. Then came the bombshell. Dr. Wong from the USPTO gave a public statement, confirming my independent patent application and the investigation into Carter Pharmaceuticals. The company's stock price plummeted. I was in my lab when Diane showed up. You're destroying your father, she said without preamble. He's destroying himself, I countered. I'm just refusing to be collateral damage. He built this company from nothing. He built it with my mother, I corrected her. And she built it on real science, not fraud and theft. Diane's facade cracked. Just tell me what you want. A public apology? Name your price to end this. I looked at her designer outfit. I want what's mine. My research, my patents, my reputation. Nothing more, nothing less. After she left, one of my researchers, Dr. Park, approached me. Dr. Carter, the preliminary trials. The results were better than we had hoped. This wasn't just about patents anymore. This could save lives. My phone buzzed with another text from Sarah. Turn on CNBC now. Madison was giving another interview, but this time, something was different. The interviewer questioned her credentials, and Madison's composure finally cracked. I helped with the business side, the monetization strategy, but you claim to have developed the actual delivery system? That is, Daddy said. She burst into tears and ran off camera. Within hours, Carter Pharmaceuticals issued a statement clarifying that Madison had not directly developed the technology. The credibility was shattered. That evening, Dr. Chen, the company's head of research and my father's oldest friend, visited my lab. Your mother would be proud, he said. Did you know? I asked. I suspected. Things changed after your father married Diane. Everything was about quick profits. Science became secondary. Why didn't you say anything? I should have, he admitted. But I'm saying something now. Half the research department wants to work for you. I looked around my lab. This was what my mother had wanted. Real science, real progress. And that interview you did, Sarah added. It's going viral in the scientific community. They're calling you the future of biotech. I smiled, thinking of Madison in her costume-like lab coat. No, I said. I'm just being who I've always been. My mother's daughter. The FDA investigation into Carter Pharmaceuticals revealed a pattern of rushed trials and manipulated data. I was in a meeting with potential investors when Sarah burst in. Alex! Turn on the news! The headline scrolling across the screen made my heart stop. Carter Pharmaceuticals CEO steps down amid investigation. There was my father, looking aged and defeated, reading a prepared statement. Under my leadership, the company strayed from its founding principles. 2 hours later, I had secured $50 million in funding for Carter Biotech. My phone buzzed constantly, but one message stood out. Can we talk? Madison. I agreed to meet her at a quiet cafe. She looked smaller, more real, without the designer clothes and perfect hair. I'm sorry, she said. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need to say it. Why did you do it? I asked. You must have known you'd be exposed. She stared into her coffee. Daddy made it sound so simple. He said you were being selfish. I believed him because I wanted to believe I could be what he wanted. I never understood what you did, the science, but I wanted so badly to matter. So you tried to steal something you didn't understand? I convinced myself it wasn't stealing, she whispered. That it was just family resources being redistributed. God, I sound just like him, don't I? My phone buzzed again. FDA report dropping in 10 minutes. It's worse than we thought. I showed her the headline. The report was devastating, revealing years of ignored safety protocols. Madison's face went pale. He knew, she whispered. Daddy knew about all of this. That's why he was so desperate to announce my version of your research. He needed a win to distract from what was coming. And you were his shield, I realized. If things went wrong, you'd take the fall as the inexperienced newcomer. Looking at her, my anger faded into pity. Yes, you were stupid, but you weren't the only one he manipulated. Later that evening, I had one final visitor. My father. He looked old and tired. I suppose you're happy now, he said, sinking into a chair. The mighty Robert Carter, brought down by his own daughter. You brought yourself down, I corrected him. I just refused to let you take me with you. I was trying to protect the company. No, I cut him off. You were trying to protect yourself. Mom built that company on integrity. On helping people. You turned it into a shell game. He flinched. Catherine, she would be disappointed, wouldn't she? Yes, I said quietly. She would. And what would make you happy now? Money? Control of the company? I gestured around my lab. This makes me happy. Real research, real science, real progress. Everything Mom taught me to value. He looked around, really seeing it for the first time. The busy researchers, the complex formulas on the whiteboards. You really did it, he said softly. Built all this on your own. No, I replied. Thanks to you. After he left, Sarah found me. The board's cleaning house, she said. They're talking about renaming the company. Making a fresh start. Good, I said. It needs one. And us? The latest trials are showing amazing results. We're on track for FDA approval months ahead of schedule. I smiled. Then let's keep going. There are people waiting for this treatment. Lives we can save. Speaking of saving things, Sarah said, Madison called. She's enrolled in community college, studying basic chemistry. She says she wants to understand the science this time. The next morning, I arrived early at the lab. A small package sat on my desk, sent by Dr. Chen. Inside was my mother's old lab notebook. On the first page, she had written, "To my Alexandra, who sees the world not just as it is, but as it could be. Never let anyone dim your light or steal your dreams. You are capable of more than they know. Love, Mom." I traced her handwriting with my finger, feeling closer to her than I had in years. She had known somehow. Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Ready to change the world?" she asked. I picked up the notebook and smiled. "More than ready. Let's show them what real innovation looks like."